Recently, Steam allowed mod creators to charge for their works, and yes, I already know what proponents are thinking. Oh no, you have to pay for something that someone went and spent hours, if not days, creating. How terrible it is that you have to go and pay someone for their time and hard work. Wah wah, I bathe in gamer tears, etc., etc. Well, okay then. If you want to resort to shaming tactics, then here is a couple of reasons why, as a modder, charging for your games is the last thing you want to do. First off, please keep in mind that generated content is a major component to most games, which is the case with Skyrim. Does anyone seriously expect Bethesda's AAA title came from the actual game itself? This question, of course, is rhetorical. What made Skyrim so great wasn't the riveting story, which was basically, oh my god, they are dragons, holy shit, let's kill them. It was the stuff that people could do with the game. One of the more interesting mods that I've actually seen was a mod called Sophia, which was a fully voiced companion who was funny as hell and added a new element of entertainment throughout the game due to her random quips and commentaries. There was also another mod called Falskar that was basically an entirely new expansion pack for the game, adding hours of new content and areas to explore, and so beloved by the community, thousands of people actually helped to beta test the darn thing, since the developers obviously didn't have a couple thousand computers or configurations to test their creation out on. Granted, they were many smaller mods such as lighting effects, weather, and silly stuff like inserting Star Wars weaponry into the game. One of my personal favorites was a mod that actually put the My Little Pony characters into the game as miscellaneous NPC characters and attacking enemies. A mod that put the various ponies into the game as rideable amounts, and also one that put Nightmare Moon as a boss tier character. This was all fun stuff, and yes, I do think that people who actually took the time and effort to create this stuff should be rewarded for their efforts. But please keep in mind that money is only one form of reward. Attention, praise, and the respect of your peers are also other forms of a reward that are worth maintaining and keeping. However, so as not to digress, let's just focus on the monetary rewards. First of all, yes, I do understand that the amount of people get from donations is very little. In fact, some might even say insulting if one were to look at it from a business standpoint of energy expended and rewards gained. However, the fact remains that the person doing the modding has no legal right to demand money unless the game developer says otherwise, which is the case with Bethesda. Since this began, modders could make money by actually charging for their work, which sounds great until you realize that you're basically being hosed. The reason for this is because Bethesda, owning the game and providing the tools to make changes to said game, gets to keep 45% up front, while Steam gets to keep 30% because they're hosting your work that now legally belongs to them. This would be like working on someone's vehicle, presenting your changes that will improve their vehicle, and after the job is done, the person pays you 25% of the agreed upon price, explaining that he gets to keep 45% of what he owes you as a permission tax because the car belongs to him. And if he hadn't agreed to any changes, you would have had made nothing. Plus, he did lend you the tools to get the job done, so you should be happy with what you get. As for the other 30% he owes you, the job was done at his friend's house, so part of your money goes to his friend because the car has to sit somewhere in order to be worked on. If you want to make money, there are better ways to do it. Bethesda should be paying you, not the other way around. And seeing as how they are taking nearly half of your total profit, does no one else think that the modders are being played as fools here? Also, as for Steam taking 30%, that's actually normal since Apple takes the same amount for hosting iOS's. Still, one can make the argument that earning 25% of something is better than earning 100% of nothing. And yes, that saying gets dumber with each retelling, because if Steam was letting the modders keep 1% of his earnings, odds are people would still be saying the exact same thing. Still, if working for slave wages is your thing, then let's put that principle into real-world practice, shall we? What I want each and every one to do is go to their shitty, dead-end job and then thank their employer for paying them so little, because if there wasn't an actual law preventing it, namely the minimum wage law, they would actually pay you less than they already are now. So remember, thank your employer for paying you so little that you can barely feed a dog, let alone an entire family. Thank them for all the hours you spent going nowhere and barely being able to stay afloat. Thank them for the fact that your paycheck is so little, because if it weren't, you would have long ago gone out and bought a gun to blow your brains out. Finally, after you have done all that, ask your employer to drop their pants, perform analingus on them, give them a reach around, and then proceed to funnel their balls. Because if you're going to act like someone's bitch, you might as well go all the way. If you don't see any reason in order to forego the pay route direction, you might want to keep this in mind. Steam actually blocks third-party donation links to its modders. So if you have any intention of keeping donations from hosting your files on Steam, don't expect that to happen too soon. But since Steam plans to turn modders into their own personal cash cow, while they just sit back and make money off the people who does all the work, what were you expecting? Then again, if you were Steam, and you had a bunch of idiots willing to fight over whatever meager table scraps are thrown their way, why wouldn't you take advantage of them? Ditto if you're Bethesda. Instead of making a decent game, let's make something that is missing a lot of content and then have the modding community fill in the gaps and holes. It's cheaper, it's easier, and if people are really this stupid as to literally pay their employer just to have the privilege of working for them, then why not take advantage of people's stupidity? Sure, this means the consumer just blew $60 on a half-finished game and then has to pay 3 to 4 times that amount since Mod A relies on Mod B and C, and since Mod B relies on Mod D, that all can add up fairly quickly. But then again, who really cares about the people using your mod? As long as they pay and you get your little doggy bone thrown at you, what else matters? So, congratulations, modders. You're now Bethesda's underpaid lackeys. Bethesda thanks you since it can now downsize itself and remove all that unneeded skill and talent that it once employed. Now all you have to do is make $400 by selling your mods in order to keep $100 for yourself. Why that much? 3 words for you. Minimum payment amount. This is going to be hard to do, especially if you're trying to sell a sword or a piece of armor for 25 to 50 cents. Right now, Wet and Code is going for $6, which will almost be enough to buy a Soku a ball of pop. Except, get this, you're not really making real-world money at all. You're getting Steam credit. Sure, it's great if you like to buy some games, but then again, it's like your employer not paying you in actual money, and instead giving you only in-store credit for your hard work. In the end, your boss gets to keep 100% of what he's paying you. This won't be much of a problem if you work at, say, Walmart, since you can at least feed yourself, but it's going to suck big time if you work at Lowe's, unless, of course, you're a beaver. So basically, we have only Bethesda and Steam making real money at the gamer's expense, but since we've already made it clear that you most likely hate yourself and don't mind working for peanuts, this shouldn't concern you in the least. What should concern you, however, is that a lot of mods are a community effort. In fact, some mods require other mods in order to work, as stated above. So the question becomes, if the mod was made by multiple people, then why should only the uploader be the only one who gets paid? Also, by piggybacking off someone else's work, like in the case of FNIS, wouldn't that basically entail giving them royalties for their work? Even if it doesn't, then answer me this question. If what you are doing to make money relies on something that you yourself did not create, then why should anything be open source and available for free use or modification? If we enter a business formula into the equation, then by all rights, shouldn't everything anyone makes be closed source so as to weed out competition? Also, just to make a quick buck, why couldn't I just grab a bunch of random mods, put them in a pack, and make money that way? Granted, someone else did all the work, but so what? I repackaged everything to make it easier to load everything in one shot, so where's my money? With this result in mind, how many mods do you think would exist today if the entire modding community didn't have a free love approach to its source material? A lot of the material that people are releasing today wouldn't even have existed if it weren't for this. Example, SkyUI is currently under a free license, meaning since the developers of it don't make a profit off of it, they are free to use the source code to create SkyUI. However, since the developers want to monetize it, they would have to pay a yearly fee of $150 or a one-shot lifetime fee of $1,250. Also, if you're using 3D Studio Max to make your mod, guess what? You need a commercial license to make a profit. That's right, no one rides for free. So if you make money, we want to make money. And since your money is in-store credit, I seriously hope you haven't cleaned your couch out looking for spare change yet. Of course, maybe you're the type who doesn't care about community. After all, what you made is probably standalone, and if yours is, then so should everyone else's. After all, that Game of Thrones add-on you created will get you mad money in a hurry. Except the only thing it will get you is a lawsuit. Anyone else remember when I talked about the mods for My Little Pony and Star Wars earlier on in this video? Guess what? Those mods would have never existed because making money from a third party's intellectual property is a big no-no. Turns out that you cannot have a crossover, an insertion, or anything else of that matter if you're making money off of it. In fact, you would most likely get sued for doing so. Keep in mind, the entire playing field changes when money is involved. So to play it safe, you will just create all new original content to play it safe, and all should be well, right? No. Turns out, you're still legally responsible for what happens with your mod. Even if a mod could be refunded within 24 hours, that would mean nothing if the mod breaks somewhere later down the road, or has an unknown glitch that will only trigger after some random event has taken place. What will happen when you have multiple paid mods running at the same time? Who's going to be responsible for all these problems taking place? Steam? No, of course not. When things go wrong, they're going to point to the modders and tell the customers to go after them. And in the event of a lawsuit due to something going wrong, or some infraction the modder didn't know about, that's going to go double. The modder is putting their necks on the line and getting paid little to nothing for their added risk. Not only that, but what of newcomers? The top 1% of people will be the ones to make a decent profit at modding, but what of new talent? Who wants to take a gamble on some Johnny-come-lately that no one has heard of? The entire paid method sounds good only if you have a strong consumer backing and a sterling reputation. Which, judging by how much the modding community will hate your guts at this point for being a sellout, it probably isn't going to be all that sterling. Why? Simple question. Who wants to pay for something before they have a chance to try it out? It only takes a few people running away with the customer's money after the first 24 hours and not fixing their bugs in the future to cause an instant mistrust of anyone new entering the scene. Still, if the lure of in-store credit proves to be too much for you and you could care less about lesser things such as being respected by your community and are determined that your immersion mod or sword number 2087 or what have you will be a big hit and that you should get more than donations for your work, here is something to think about. To create anything that is a fan-directed work takes time and effort. Fan fiction, fan art, even a critique of your favorite show all takes time and effort. Do you seriously expect me to believe that the people who create these things should be paid for their work? I made a couple of fanfictions when I was still in high school. Should I have been paid for that? Also, what would happen if DeviantArt had a pay section for their artists and you had to pay $1 to look at each picture? Granted, I've seen some incredible work in my time, but the entire idea of having to pay just to look at it isn't going to happen. As for reviewing stuff, as much as I enjoy watching The Nostalgia Critic, who here would continue to watch it if you had to pay per episode that came out, and how many people do you think would just pirate his work instead? Still, if you want to stick to your chosen mantra of, I have worked on this, and as a result, I should be getting paid for it, okay then. In that case, start sending money to my PayPal account right now, since you have obviously benefited from this video and the work I put into it by gathering information and putting arguments together. What? You don't think this is fair? Do you think because I'm getting paid by advertisements that should more than compensate for my lack of revenue? Take a look at the number of people who have seen this video. That's right, hardly anyone has seen this, so I have spent probably over 10 hours working on this thing, writing the script, Googling the images, singing the images up, and of course recording the audio. And the thing of it is, I'm most likely not even going to see one copper penny out of all this hard work, so by the modder's own rhetoric, shouldn't that mean I should be paid by the viewer in order to make up for the amount of money I'm not going to receive? Of course not, you're thinking to yourself. You should be putting videos up because it's beneficial to you, and not just to go out and make a quick buck. YouTube is not your personal money-making machine after all. Well, if this is indeed how the viewer feels, then please explain to me why you think that, as a modder, that you are entitled to charge people just for using your mod. Yes, it takes a lot of time and effort. No one is questioning this. However, that doesn't change the fact that what you did was a fan creation and should therefore be a labor of love, where the act of creating said mod should be the end goal and not turning a profit. If you really want to make money, then put your talents to better use. Since you already have the ability to script and code, look for people who need that sort of talent and make money that way. This way, you actually get to keep what you earn, instead of giving most of it away to a second and third party.